Hi soulmates, you're welcome to my channel. My name is TECLAR FASHION, and in today's tutorial I'll be showing you the easiest method and also a detailed way I was able to achieve this beautiful dress. So if this sounds like something that you like to learn, I'll urge you to go ahead now to like this video. And if this is your first time coming to this channel, please go ahead to subscribe to this channel, and also remember to turn on your notification bell so that you, my precious one, will be the very first person to know any day we upload a new tutorial. These are all the materials that I used to achieve this dress. This is my cotton fabric and it is about 3 yards. And I also have my peplum stay, which is about half yard. You can get 1 yard if you want, but half yard was able to do this for me. And then I also have my tissue gum, which I was able to use it to add to the facing. You can also skip the tissue gum if you want, but you can also iron it to your lining parts. So in order to achieve this dress, I first went ahead to fold my fabric into two, and then I came down by one quarter of an inch, which is 1.25, and I also went ahead to connect that. This is going to serve as my starting line, and from that particular line I will now come down and mark my shoulder to my nipple point, which is my bust point. I will now mark 11 inches. My shoulder to nipple is 11, and I also went ahead to connect that together. Then I am now going to go ahead to measure my shoulder to the under bust. You know that that particular place where the gather started is actually the under bust part. So my shoulder to my under bust is about 15 inches, right? So I just went ahead to mark that as well and to connect it all the way to the end of my fabric. So now that we have this, we are now going to go ahead to move to our overlapping points. Now, there are some people that make this dress and the front does not overlap, but for this particular one that I made, you can see that the front overlapped. So for my overlapping allowance, I came in by 2 inches from the fabric. I will urge you to actually pay attention because we are actually cutting directly on the fabric. So I came in by 2 inches as my overlapping allowance, and then every other measurement is going to start from the 2 inches. So I just went ahead to cut this part of my fabric out so that it can be easier for us to work on. So right now I am now going to go ahead to impute my shoulder measurement, and also notice that I am starting from that place that I came in by 2 inches, and the shoulder I'm working with is 16 divided by 2, which is 8. I also went ahead to add extra 12 inches allowance. You can decide to add more if you want. You can do 14, 16. And on that particular point where I marked 12 inches allowance, I also came down by 1.5 inches as my shoulder slope. Then I marked in 3.5 inches as my neck width, and from that 3.5 inches I am going to now connect to that particular place where I came down by 1.5 inches, as you can see. So this is going to serve as my shoulder slope. And then from that 1.5 I also came down by about 9.5. You can try to come down by 10. This is going to serve as my sleeve opening, right? So I'm just cross-checking to see what I have so that I can be able to connect that particular point out. So this is actually the part where your hand is going to come out from. So now that we have this, I am going to move to my under bust now. My under bust is about 8 3/4, and I now went ahead to mark my allowance. You can decide to add 7, 8 or even 9 depending on how much fabric you want to pleat or gather there. So for me, I just used about 7 inches. You can use 8, it's still very okay. And I am now going to come in by 1 inch on that my armhole part, and I'll just connect with a curve, just the way you can see me connect that. Can you see? So this is actually going to serve from your sleeve to your under bust. You can see the way I labeled it. So right now for my overlapping, I will now cut my v-neck. My v-neck is actually going to extend to the under bust. Remember that the joining is on the under bust. So from that neckline, I'm just going to connect to my under bust. I came up by about half an inch from there, and from that point I am just going to connect to my neck width. You can decide to just connect directly to your underbust. So you can see what I have now. This is like a v-neck. Are you seeing that our front part is already coming out? And from that shoulder slope, I now extended the up part by 1.1 inches, which is 1.25. This is what we are going to use for the rope part. You know that the shoulder is actually ruched, so we are actually going to use this to add the rope on the shoulder. And I am now going to go ahead to cut this out. Also notice that I was adding extra half inch on all sides. This is going to serve as my joining allowance, and after I was done, that is what I have. Then for the basque parts, I am just going to start measuring from my underbust. You remember that the underbust we are working with is 15 inches, and anything I have on my underbust, I just add extra 3 inches to it to get my half length. And I also extended from that waistline to about 9 inches below to serve as my hip line. This is going to guide me to get the basque effect. So on the underbust line, I am actually going to impute my underbust measurement. Please note that this starting line is the underbust line. So I did impute my underbust measurement, and then on the waistline I will impute my waist measurement. Remember that the measurement you are imputing is your waist circumference divided by 4, and your underbust round underbust circumference divided by 4 as well. Then on that place where I marked hip, I also placed my hip circumference divided by 4, and then I also came down by about 2 inches. Some people want their basque effect to start from the waist, but for this particular dress I will advise you to come down by about 1.5 inches or at least 2 inches. And I actually did 2.5. The reason why I did 2.5 is that that half inch is going to serve as my joining allowance to my fabric. Then for the basque effect, you can come down by 6, you can come down by 7. For me, I came down by 7 because this is actually for a size 14 measurement. So I'm just adding extra in order for it to sit well. So I also went ahead to connect that, and I also added 1.5 inches sewing allowance. Can you see that? So please also remember to add your seam allowance or your sewing allowance. And I went ahead to cut that out. I also notched the center part. So guys, if this is your first time coming to my channel, please go ahead now to like this video and also subscribe to this channel. We have so many amazing tutorials on the channel that you can check. We have so many corset tutorial. We also have an ongoing series on blazer sewing, and it is actually a detailed tutorial. So I'll urge you to hit the subscribe button right away. And now that you have done that, let's continue. So I also folded in another fabric for the back. I came in by 2 inches. This is going to serve as my zip allowance, and I also marked the tip of my front basque. You will notice that I placed the front part on the part where I folded. I'll just use this to cut my back. You can decide to have a slanted back, which is going to slant up. You can also decide to just stop at the under bust, but for me, I just want that basque effect to be at the under bust, right? Then on the down part, you now determine how you want it to be. Do you want it to be exactly the same way the front is, or do you want it to have any other allowance, right? So for now, I just went ahead to cut out the up part. You must not necessarily come down the way I came down. You can just place your front pattern on top. Then right now, I am now going to determine how my back part is going to be. So I just place that on my underbust to determine the length that I want, which is the basque of your back, like that V kind of stuff that is curved. So for me, I didn't use up to 7 inches. I first came up by 1 inches. What that means is that from my underbust, I came down by about 6 inches or 7 inches. from my waistline, sorry. So you can just connect this how you want it to be. I also went ahead to make another curve to the 7 inches so that it will be the same, exactly the same thing for the front. If this is too pointy for you, you can decide to just use about 6 inches, and I went ahead to cut that out. I am also going to open up this part because it's going to serve as my zip allowance. Then in order for the back not to bulge, I am actually going to come in by 3/4 of an inch on the waist part, and I'm just going to reconnect that to my full length so that the back part is not bulging at that particular point. So I am just going to go ahead to cut that out, and after cutting, this is what I have. So guys, our online classes is still ongoing. We have classes on sculpted corset, on fashion business course. We also have, it is the corset class is just 7,000 naira. We also have courses on fashion business course, which is just 5,000. If you are running this tailoring business and you do not make much profit, or you do not have so many things left at the end of the month, just head over to our fashion business course and you will get the value that you need to run a profitable fashion business. So in order to cut the back part, I am actually going to place the front part on a folded fabric, and you can see the way I folded in that overlapping part, and I added extra 1.5 inches for my zip, and I also connected it back to my V neckline, right? So just for the front and the back, the only difference is that I added extra 1.5 inches for zip allowance on my back. This is because I want the zip to start at the shoulder to nipple point on the back. So from the shoulder to where my zip started is 11 inches. If you want yours to start at your underbust, it's still very okay. But for me, I wanted it at least 3 inches closed above my bust point, right? So that it will not be too open at the back, and also so that the shoulder will not be falling off the shoulder part. You know, when you wear the dress and it's now falling off your shoulder, right? So right now I also went ahead to cut my down part. The length I am using is about 26 inches. This is actually like a midi dress, like the length is like midi below the knee. If you want yours shorter, you can also do that. And what I actually used is 3 yards by length, just the 3 yards by length. I also cut out my band strip. It is actually 4 pieces, and each one is 1.5 inches in width and about 28.5 inches in length. You can decide to cut out any length that you want. I also went ahead to cut my facing for the front and the back, which I'm going to use to turn the front neckline and also the back neckline. You will also notice that I ironed my interfacing to it. You remember the hairstay that I showed you when we started? I also ironed it to the facing part as well. So I'm going to use this to turn the neckline of the front and also turn the neckline of the back, right? So you can see what I have. At this point I was done turning it, and I also ironed it together. So right now I am going to go ahead to sew the shoulder of the front to the shoulder of the back, right? So I just placed it. I placed the front on top of the back, and you remember that 1/4 inches that we came down with, I used it to join it. So after joining it, you can see that I have about 1/4 inch of allowance on the shoulder part, right? So I am now going to use a small tiny allowance, like 1/4 of an inch, 0.25 of an inch, to now fold each part and then run a thread on top of it. What I'm trying to create is the rope casing, where the rope is actually going to be. But then I forgot to actually fold the tip of my sleeve first. So I will actually advise you to fold the tip of your sleeve first before making this casing, right? So I actually had to go ahead and make that sleeve fold before attaching my rope to it. So just use your safety pin to insert your rope just the way you can see here, and then stitch it at the neckline, top stitch at the neckline. So you can see that this is one side of the front and one side of the back. So you can see that it is, if I actually ruch it, is showing very well. So remember to turn your sleeve part. You know, like we added extra half inch for the sleeve, you can use half inch or 1 inch to turn the sleeve part before adding your rope. So for my basque effect, I went ahead to iron the peplum stay, which I showed you earlier on, onto it, but I did not extend it to that 1.5 inches sewing allowance. Can you see that? So after gathering the down part, this I marked the center of the basque, and I'm going to go ahead to now place each side of the front on top of the basque part, right? So I just went ahead to gather it, and when you are gathering it, make sure that the length is the same thing as half of that basque part, right? Then also remember to overlap your 2 inches. You remember that our 2 inches is overlapped, so I'm just placing this at the center in order to overlap my 2 inches. And after overlapping it, just distribute your gathers so that it can be able to rhyme with the width of the basque as well. So I went ahead to sew that, and I am also going to do the same thing on the back. So I'm joining one piece of the front to the basque and then one piece of the back to each side of the back. I hope you were able to get what I said. So after joining, this is the back. Can you see that? So I've joined the up side of the back to the down part of the back, and I also did the same thing on the front. So right now I am going to use my lining to sew on the seam allowance that I have. Remember that you will also cut your lining as well, and I am now using it to kind of turn the seam allowance, stitch it in such a way that when you turn your lining, you are not going to have the seam allowance remaining, right? So after I was done, this is what I have, and I also went ahead to iron it as well. So on this sleeve part, you can see that I folded the sleeve. I actually had to lose that rope in order to resew it and then attach the rope back. So I also use the allowance that I have to join the sides. I used half inch from the sleeve all the way to the place where the back started, and I just used the 1.5 inches that we added as the allowance to now sew it. And then the down part, I also went ahead to run a gather stitch on it. Remember that the width of the back is going to correspond with this basque effect. So from this place that is like V part, just measure from one point of the back to the other point of the back as well. And once you get it, then you now place the midpoint of your gathered skirt or gathered down on the center part, and then you now go ahead to pin it all through and then stitch it all around. So guys, our content calendar group is still ongoing. We share content that you can create for visibility, and this month as well we added soft skills that you can learn every day in order to improve your business as well. So if you are interested in all this, just go ahead to click the WhatsApp link in the comment section, or use the seller link on our bio to get any of our online classes. And after I was done joining, this is what I have. So right now I am going to go ahead to now fold it in order to mark my zipper allowance. Remember that this dress is going to have a back zipper, so I am just placing it together so that I can be able to get the allowance for my zip. So whatever is your zip allowance, just go ahead to mark it, and from the place where the basque effect stopped, just go ahead to come down by about 6 inches and extend your zip all the way down there. So after I was done, this is what I have. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have not subscribed, please go ahead now to subscribe to our channel. And if you have any question, please go ahead to drop it in the comments. It's still your girl Tekla. Until the next video, bye.